Hello, my name is Derrius Taylor Martin. Thank you for coming. When you think of an animal you've had in the past, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Is it a horse? Maybe it's a chicken. Or if the more conventional ones, maybe a dog or a cat or a fish. Whatever the case is, two things are true. One, they bring us joy, and two, they need our help. We are responsible for animals. Today, I'm going to talk about pet husbandry, which is taking care of your animal, domestic animals like dogs or cats specifically, and how to do so. I'm going to be talking about pets' health and safety, pets' environments, training and enrichment, and the responsibility of being a pet owner. First off, a pet has needs that must be met, like both nutritionally and also in terms of like fur, teeth, and for some horned animals, like the growths that they have. Essentially, a animal needs to have a specific amount of calories, just like humans do. They need to eat and they need to be fed clean water and such, or else they will get sick and unfortunately pass. And although that seems like a very obvious answer, not everyone does that with their animals, unfortunately. And essentially, an animal needs to be ensured that they have food that they can eat. And especially since animals can actually have a lot of foods, like unlike us humans, they have foods that are essentially poison to them. Like, for example, dogs can't eat chocolate, and that's which is a common one. Or another more uncommon one is that horses can't eat lilies, or else it's literally poison to them. And with that, like, you need to be able to know what food to give your animal, lest you risk their well-being for the sake of your own like convenience, I suppose. And grooming cats and dogs and a lot of other furred animals can get mats extremely easily if you don't make sure that you keep them well groomed. And especially like with like for example larger animals like goats or something, their horns will continue to grow as long as they live. So if you don't file them down, they will actually grow back into their head and really cause them like serious injury and risk of infection. But besides just the health of an animal, you also need to make sure that your animal is trained and well trained at that. A trained animal is a completely different thing from an untrained one, especially with how you can't really control an animal that much. But especially like around younger children, it could be a kind of a risk or liability. But making sure that your animal is properly trained is not only a safer option around you or your family, but also enrich the dog's life. By training, they're able to get out more, and you can't just keep a dog cooped up in a room all day or in the house all day. It's not really good for them, especially since like they are more excitable animals that require like stimulation at some points. You can't just neglect them, or else that is illegal and animal abuse. And I think that like more people should make the conscious effort of at least like walking their dog, teaching them simple tricks. You don't really need it, but it's really preferred to make sure that your dog understands what's right and what's wrong. And on the topic of what's right and what's wrong, a lot of people don't know that because they're not responsible pet owners. Pet responsibility is one of the biggest parts of being an animal owner at all and practicing pet husbandry. Taking care of an animal seems like such a simple thing, considering the fact that so many of us have had animals in the past. But it's way harder than for most people than you would think somehow. A lot of the times, people in like a fit of loneliness will adopt an animal that they were totally unprepared for. And in the case of that, those animals oftentimes go neglected and left alone. That's extremely unhealthy from an animal and leads to a lot of stress buildup in the animal, which is entirely not good for them. And in cases I've seen people who openly forget to feed their animals or use shock collars to keep them in one spot just for, whatever they want to do, just they don't explore the house, which is what dogs do. Even for cats, horses, and such, neglecting them can lead to fatality really easily, as long as if you let it spiral out of control. And being a responsible owner and knowing what you're getting into before you actually adopt an animal is one of the most important parts of the entire thing, especially since, as I said earlier, pets are entirely reliant on us half the time. A cat can't feed themselves unless they go out and hunt. Especially, and dogs also are in the same boat right there. Horses, every other animal basically. All domestic animals need humans to survive long term, or else you are just endangering them for your own pleasure, I suppose. Um, but aside from pet responsibility, it ties into like the pet's general safety and environment. A pet's safety and environment is extremely important for the animal itself, especially for the mental state of an animal. Although they're not as sophisticated as humans, like some people seem to say, they do have emotions and they do stress out. And a stressed dog is actually the most dangerous kind of dog. Those people think, oh, certain dog breeds are more dangerous than others. It's actually not the case. It's more so that a certain breed of dog is just that breed of dog that has a stigma against it, like a pit bull, for example, was probably just neglected and ended up biting a child or biting somebody because they weren't taken care of properly. When animals get stressed, they get extremely irritable, and when doing so, you're more likely to have a situation where they end up like biting somebody for no apparent reason, but it's more because they're just not taken care of. They're like kept in cages all day and or have their built up energy just all in their body without being able to like release anything. And I feel like in most cases, like people who are responsible pet owners should, in the scenario that their dog can't like go outside, can't run around, should just end up taken to like a pet hospital or maybe not even a vet, just taken to an animal shelter in general, and make sure that they're given to someone who could actually take care of them, lest you end up causing situations that may lead to the dog either getting put down or someone else getting harmed, or both in the process. In conclusion, I think that when you practice good pet husbandry, having pets is a wonderful thing and is a really fun time actually, especially when you have a close bond with your animal, like I do, like for example my cats. And I think that although there are a lot of bad apples who don't actually treat pets with their responsibility and with the kindness they deserve, I think that if allowed, I think that everyone should at least have a little bit of experience in the subject of pet husbandry, even if it doesn't seem like a thing you need to do, unless you don't want a pet or anything like that. But I feel like you should study up on animals, just because if you want to have a pet, you got to make sure you don't leave things out and such, and keep them safe. Thank you for listening.